When I stopped worrying and operating in my shyness, I was able to make six figures. If you stay tuned, I'll show you how. What's going on, YouTube family, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Tyrone Isaac. I'm glad to have you tuning in on today. So, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that notification bell. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like and comment. It definitely goes a long way. So we'll jump right into this conversation. Pretty exciting conversation for me because, yeah, I was finally able to make six figures back in 2022. I was finally able to break through to the six-figure category for a salary. And that's just straight salary without a bonus. And for me, I was able to do that because I stopped worrying and I stopped operating in a sense of being shy. So, just a little backstory 2022, I think I'm not at six figures, but I end up getting a promotion that puts me at the six figure threshold. Um, since then, I've been able to operate at a operate or take the skills that I learned and that I finally understood in 2022. And over the last 2 years, last 3 years, I've been able to operate and utilize those skills to where 2022, I finally got over the six-figure threshold. But then this past year in 2024, I made just over, I doubled that. I doubled the six-figure salary that I made in 2022, right? So not nowhere near $500,000 or anything like that, but just to go from making 100K to 200K to if I'll go ahead and say it, yeah, last year I made $260,000, and yeah, it's just because of me learning a certain skill set or certain things that helped me to get to that point. So I'll go ahead and share them. We'll go ahead and jump right into them because it's not about me, but it's about making sure that you all know how to also get over that threshold. And with that being said, it's actually really simpler than you think if you work in a job that you're able to get that type of, or you're able to make that type of income, right? If you're working at a job that you're not able to make that type of income, my advice is you want to get into a field or a place where you're able to make that type of income. However, if you are in a operating in a career where you know those type of salaries are um, they're there for people to make or to obtain, you can definitely get there. With that being said, for me, I always worried, and I'm sure some of you worry about it too. You worry a lot. Step number one, in order to get a six-figure salary, you got to stop worrying, right? Because when you worry, all you're doing is you're so focused on the action or the thing that's stopping you from getting that salary versus working towards getting that salary. All right. So you're too focused on everything you're doing wrong versus focused on everything you're doing right and what else can you do to help you get that salary. So my advice, first, stop worrying and focusing on the things that you're doing wrong. All right. Step two for me was I raised my hand. People typically, there's a lot of people who are extroverts, but there's a lot of people who are introverted. And with being an introvert, you're typically a little shy. You're typically a little reserved. If you're that person who you're shy or you're reserved, you have to get to the point where even through your shyness and your reservedness, you have to get to the point where you raise your hand. And what I mean by you raise your hand is on your job, there are typically projects that are that there are projects that occur throughout the year. And a lot of these projects, what they do is they create exposure. So with these projects creating exposure, if you get to the point where you start raising your hand for these projects, you then actually fall right into the next step, which is you put yourself into the presence of the decision makers. All right. So step 2, you got to raise your hand. Step 3, you got to put yourself in front of the decision makers. All right. And those go hand in hand. When you raise your hand, the decision makers, or the people that typically get in the room and make the decision on the job promotions, on the raises, on the bonuses, they're going to remember you. However, if you're somebody that doesn't raise your hand ever, if you're somebody that doesn't try to get on these project teams or go above and beyond, or hey, try to help take stuff off your boss's plate, then you're not going to be remembered almost, right? I think there's a scene in a movie, I think it's Troy, that's why you won't be remembered or whatever like that, right? But you have to be remembered. And the only way you're going to be remembered is by raising your hand. Like, you literally have to raise your hand and become that person who the decision makers know. Now, once the decision makers know you, you're setting yourself up for future success. All right? Because the decision makers, like I said, they're the ones that go in that room. They decide on the promotion. They decide on the salaries. They decide on all of that. I know somebody that they said a lot of times in businesses, it's not about what you know, but it's about who you know. I believe that's true. However, I think there's a little more than about who you know. I think you only begin to know the people by being somebody who raises their hand. All right. Before you raised your hand, nobody knew you. But once you raised your hand, now you know people. Now they know who you are. So step 3, get in front of the decision makers. Step 4, you got to be able to execute. Once you're placed on these projects, once you're in front of the decision makers, they're going to give you a project. They're going to put you on this project team. They're going to basically expect results out of you. And if you're somebody who you're able to execute the results or execute the project, the plan that they've placed in front of you, then you're just setting yourself up for success. So step 4 is execute the plan that is placed in front of you. All right. Again, don't worry about all the other stuff, right? You've grown from being a warrior. You're no longer a warrior. And that is what is wrong with so many of us in society nowadays, is that we just constantly worry, we constantly struggle, and we constantly are thinking about like all of our bad our bad traits, all of our bad, and when I say bad traits, I'm thinking like you're in your head thinking about your worth. You feel like you're not worthy enough or adequate enough. And by you doing that, you can't even focus on what's right in front of you. And that's helping the company to grow. So my advice, you got to stop worrying about that, and you got to be able to execute the plan that's being placed in front of you. Literally, that is what I did in 2022. I literally raised my hand. I took on projects. I put myself in front of the decision makers, and then I raised my hand. And by doing that, I was able to obtain a job promotion that put me over the 6-figure threshold. All right. And then I continued to do that. Right. A little while ago at the beginning of the video, I made mention that in 2025, I made $260,000 in 2024. but that's because I constantly raised my hand. All right. I literally, by me constantly raising my hand and putting myself in front of the decision makers, I'll be candid. In 2022, I was making 99, 98 or 99 grand. So I wasn't at the six-figure threshold. I was almost there, but I wasn't there. All right. And then I get a promotion. And that promotion puts me at $125,000 a year. Okay. And then that's 2022. I'm now at 125,000. Going to 2023, I'm at 125,000. I got because I got promoted at the end of 2022 or summer 2022, August 2022. And we got raises in April, and it was just your basic raise. And I just got promoted, so it was only like a typical 3% raise. However, at the end of 2023, another big project came up. And when that big project came up, guess what? I raised my hand again. So I went from 125 grand at the beginning of 2023. By the end of 2023, by raising my hand again, my salary jumped up to $155,000. So I got a $20,000 raise. And then got to 2024, and the project is going good. We're executing. The team is moving in the right direction. And then I get another raise. I didn't get the typical 3% raise. I went from 150 grand to $175,000. And then we get to 2024, the end of 2024, going into 2025, and then it rocket ships. I end up at $260,000. So that's all because I stopped being shy, I stopped worrying, and I raised my hand to where I said, what do you need? I can do that. Let me show you my skill set. So my advice for anybody that's trying to get out of that, get into that threshold of six figures, you got to raise your hand. You got to stop worrying. You got to stop being shy. If you can do that, you'll get there. You will definitely get there if you work in corporate America. All right. With that being said, I'm excited about where the channel is going, because for me, when I started my channel, I dealt with going from 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship, which I'm still on that journey. However, I'm starting to shift more towards growth. I truly believe that we as a people, if we continue to grow, then we will end up in a better spot. So, like I said at the beginning, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Later.